The broken pieces of the human ship covered the ground like scattered toys. Metal twisted into strange shapes. Glass melted into pools that reflected the pale light of 3 moons. Smoke rose from engine parts that would never work again. The battle was over and nobody had won. Vorthak moved through the wreckage with careful steps. His huge body cast shadows over the destroyed ship parts. Each step made the ground shake a little. His scales changed color from green to black as he walked. The dragon was older than most planets. He had seen many wars end this way. The humans had fought hard against the hegemony forces. Their small ships tried to protect the big colony vessel. But there were too many enemy ships. The humans were brave, but bravery could not stop laser cannons and plasma bombs. Now their ship lay broken on this empty moon. Vorthak did not usually care about these wars. Young races always fought each other. They destroyed themselves and then started over. It happened again and again across the galaxy. The dragons watched but did not help. That was their way. But something made him stop walking. A sound reached his ears. It was very quiet. Almost not there at all. His big head turned toward the noise. It came from inside a broken piece of the ship. The sound came again. Soft and small. Like a bird calling for its mother. But this was not a bird. This was something else. Something that should not be alive in this place of death. Vorthak moved closer to the wreckage. His huge eye looked through a crack in the metal wall. Inside he saw something that surprised him. A human baby lay in a small pod. The child was very small. Her tiny hands moved in the air. She was crying, but the sound was weak. The emergency pod kept her alive, but not for long. Red lights blinked on the control panel. The air was running out. The power cells were almost empty. In a few minutes, the life support would stop working. Around the baby, 2 adult humans lay still. They did not move. They would never move again. But their bodies protected the pod. Even in death, they tried to keep the baby safe. The woman's hand still touched the pod's side. Vorthak stared at the scene. He had seen millions of beings die. Death did not surprise him anymore. But this tiny human lived when everything else was gone. She fought to stay alive with nothing but a failing machine to help her. The dragon's massive claw reached toward the broken ship. Each of his claws was longer than the baby's whole body. He could crush the pod without trying, but he moved very slowly, very carefully. The metal bent under his touch like soft clay. The baby's eyes opened as the metal pulled away. She looked up at the giant face above her. Most creatures screamed when they saw a dragon. Fear was the normal reaction. But this tiny human just watched him with dark eyes full of wonder. Vorthak lifted the pod with movements that seemed impossible for such a huge creature. His claws held it like it was made of the thinnest glass. The baby made soft noises but did not cry. She seemed to know he would not hurt her. The pod's lights went out as he lifted it. The air inside was used up. The baby would die in seconds without help. Vorthak opened his mind and let his life energy flow around the pod. The air became clean again. The temperature became warm. The baby could breathe. He held the pod against his chest where his heart beat. The steady rhythm seemed to calm the child. Her crying stopped. Her small hand reached toward the glowing marks on his scales. Dragons had these marks to show their age and power. This baby was too young to understand what they meant, but she was not afraid. Vorthak looked around the battlefield one more time. Nothing else lived here. The baby was the only survivor of a fight between fleets of ships. Thousands had died, but this one small human remained. She was alone in a dangerous galaxy with no family and no home. The dragon could leave her here. That would be the old way. The way his people had always chosen. Dragons did not interfere with the wars of younger races. They watched and remembered, but they did not help. This baby was not his problem. But as he looked down at the small face, something changed in his ancient mind. She was so tiny, so helpless. Yet she lived when warriors in armor had died. There was something special about her, something worth saving. The baby made a small sound and grabbed one of his scales with her tiny fingers. Her grip was weak, but she held on tight. She trusted him completely. This surprised the dragon more than anything else. Trust was rare in the galaxy. Most beings feared dragons or wanted to use their power. This baby just needed someone to take care of her. Vorthak made his choice. He would take the human child to his home. He would keep her safe and help her grow strong. It went against everything his people believed, but he did not care anymore. Some things were more important than old rules. The dragon's ship waited for him beyond the wreckage. It was not like the metal ships that other races built. His ship was alive, grown from his own essence over thousands of years. It could change shape and function based on his thoughts. Today, it would need to become something new, a place where a human baby could live and grow. As Vorthak carried the pod toward his ship, the baby fell asleep. Her breathing was steady and calm. She felt safe in the dragon's care. She did not know that her people were scattered across the galaxy. She did not know about the wars that had taken her family. For now, she was just a baby who needed food and warmth and someone to watch over her. The ancient dragon looked up at the stars as he walked. Somewhere out there, other humans still lived. They fought to survive in a galaxy that wanted to destroy them. Maybe this baby would find them someday. Maybe she would help them become strong again. Or maybe she would become something entirely new. Only time would tell what the future held for the last survivor of the colony ship. But whatever happened, she would not face it alone. The dragon had made a promise without words. He would protect her and teach her and help her become whatever she was meant to be. The baby slept peacefully as they left the battlefield behind, unaware that her life had just changed forever. The journey to Vorthak's home took many days. During this time, the ancient dragon learned that caring for a human baby was harder than fighting entire fleets of enemy ships. The tiny creature needed constant attention. She required food every few hours, clean clothes when she made messes, and gentle movements to help her sleep. Vorthak's ship was unlike anything other races had built. It was alive, made from his own life force over thousands of years. The walls could think and feel. They responded to his wishes without him speaking. But the ship had never carried a human baby before. Everything had to change. The dragon focused his mind on the ship's living walls. Slowly, they began to shift and grow. New rooms formed where the baby could live safely. The air became warmer and softer, like the air on human worlds. Special lights appeared that would not hurt the baby's eyes. The floor became smooth and safe for crawling. The baby's name was written on her pod in human letters. It said Hiejin. Vorthak practiced saying the name until he could make the sounds correctly. His voice was deep like thunder, but he learned to speak softly when he talked to her. Hiejin seemed to like the sound of his voice. She would stop crying when he spoke. Food was the biggest problem. The emergency pod had some milk powder for babies, but it would not last long. Vorthak had never needed to eat the way other creatures did. He got energy directly from stars and space itself. Making food for a tiny human was completely new to him. The dragon studied everything he knew about human biology. His vast memory held information about thousands of races, including humans. He knew what chemicals and nutrients a baby needed to grow healthy and strong. But knowing the facts was different from making real food that a baby would accept. His first attempts were disasters. The ship's food makers could create any substance by rearranging basic elements. Vorthak programmed them to make perfect human baby milk. The formula was chemically identical to what human mothers produced. But when he tried to feed it to Hiejin, she refused to drink it. The baby cried and pushed the bottle away. She was hungry, but something about the artificial milk tasted wrong to her. Vorthak felt frustrated for the first time in centuries. He could reshape matter at the atomic level, but he could not make food that one small human would accept. He tried again and again. Each new formula was slightly different. Sometimes Hiejin would take a few sips before rejecting it. Sometimes she would not even try to drink. The dragon watched her carefully, noting every tiny reaction. Her facial expressions told him when something tasted bitter, sweet, or strange. After many failures, Vorthak realized his mistake. He was thinking like a machine, trying to create perfect chemical combinations. But babies did not just need nutrition. They needed food that felt natural and comforting. Human mothers did more than just provide milk. They provided warmth and safety and love. The dragon changed his approach. Instead of making artificial milk, he studied how human mothers actually fed their babies. He watched old recordings of human families from his vast database. He saw how mothers held their babies close, how they spoke softly during feeding time, how they made the experience about more than just nutrition. Vorthak's ship grew new organs that could produce something closer to real mother's milk. But more importantly, he learned to hold Hiejin gently while she ate. His massive claws could cradle her entire body. His warm breath created a comfortable atmosphere around her. He spoke to her in soft rumbles that she seemed to find soothing. Finally, Hiejin accepted the food. She drank eagerly and made happy sounds. Vorthak felt a strange emotion he had not experienced in thousands of years. Pride. Not the fierce pride of victory in battle, but the gentle pride of taking care of someone who depended on him completely. The baby grew stronger every day. Her cries became louder and more demanding. She moved her arms and legs with more energy. Her eyes followed movement around the room. She was learning to focus on Vorthak's face when he came near her sleeping area. Vorthak discovered that human babies needed more than just food and warmth. They needed stimulation for their developing minds. Hijin became fussy when left alone for too long. She wanted to see new things and hear different sounds. The dragon realized she was already learning about the world around her. He began carrying her with him as he moved through his ship. Her small pod was modified with transparent walls so she could look out safely. Hijin watched everything with intense curiosity. The changing colors of the ship's walls fascinated her. The soft music of the bio-neural networks made her smile. The ship's living systems also began to respond to the baby's presence. The walls glowed more gently when she was near. The air circulation created soft breezes that helped her sleep. Even the ship's consciousness seemed curious about this tiny new passenger. As they traveled through space, Vorthak told Hyejin stories about the stars they passed. She could not understand the words yet, but she listened to his voice with complete attention. He spoke about brave humans who had explored distant galaxies. He told her about beautiful worlds where her people had built great cities. The dragon also began to worry about the future. Hijin was healthy and growing well, but she was still completely helpless. Human babies took years to become independent. During that time, she would need constant care and protection. Vorthak's home was safe, but it was not designed for raising a human child. More importantly, Hijin was probably the only human in this entire region of space. Her people had been scattered by war. She might grow up never meeting another member of her own species. This thought troubled the ancient dragon deeply. Humans were social creatures. They needed others of their kind to develop properly, but these worries were for later. Right now, Hijin was content to sleep in her warm pod, drink her milk, and watch the stars go by. She had no idea that she was traveling with one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. To her, Vorthak was simply the giant who kept her safe and made sure she had everything she needed. The journey continued through the vast emptiness between stars, carrying an unlikely pair toward a future neither could fully imagine. 3 years passed in Vorthak's hidden realm, and Hijin had grown from a helpless baby into a curious little girl. She walked with steady steps through halls that changed shape according to her guardian's will. Her laughter echoed in chambers where most beings would go mad from the impossible geometry. But to Hijin, this strange world was simply home. Vorthak's domain existed in a place between normal space and other dimensions. Stars looked different here. Gravity worked in ways that confused most minds. Time flowed at its own pace. The ancient dragon had built this sanctuary over millions of years, creating a refuge where he could think and rest without interference from the galaxy's endless conflicts. Now his peaceful realm buzzed with the energy of a growing human child. Hijin ran through gardens where flowers sang in colors that had no names. She played with creatures made of pure light that danced around her like friendly pets. The dragon watched her with amazement as she adapted to wonders that would terrify adult explorers. The child's development surprised even Vorthak's vast knowledge. Human children were supposed to learn slowly, but Hijin absorbed information like a sponge soaking up water. By age 2, she spoke in complete sentences. By 3, she asked questions that made the ancient dragon think carefully before answering. "Why do the walls change colors when I touch them?" she asked one morning as they shared breakfast in a room overlooking a lake of liquid starlight. Vorthak considered his answer. "They respond to your emotions," he explained in his gentle rumble. "When you are happy, they show warm colors. When you are sad, they become cooler." Hijin pressed her small hand against the nearest wall. It immediately glowed with soft golden light. "I am happy now," she said with a bright smile. "Because you make the best stories." The dragon had indeed become a master storyteller. Each evening he would shrink his massive form to fit better in Hijin's room and tell her tales of distant worlds and brave heroes. She loved stories about humans who explored unknown planets and made friends with alien creatures. She always asked for happy endings. But Vorthak faced new challenges as Hijin grew older. Human children needed social interaction with others their own kind. They learned important lessons by playing with other children. Heijin had no playmates except for the harmless energy beings that inhabited parts of his domain. The dragon tried to solve this problem by creating holographic companions for her. These light-based copies of human children could talk and play games. But Heijin quickly realized they were not real. She enjoyed playing with them, but she understood the difference between artificial friends and real ones. "They are nice," she told Vorthak after spending an afternoon with her holographic playmates. "But they do not have real thoughts like you and me. They only say what their programs tell them to say." Her insight worried the dragon. Heijin was developing intellectually far faster than normal human children. She understood concepts that should have been beyond her age. This rapid growth was partly due to the unique environment of his realm, where thought and reality mixed in ways that exercised her mind constantly. Vorthak decided to expand her education. He created learning environments throughout his domain, where Heijin could explore different subjects. In one chamber, she learned about the stars and planets of the galaxy. In another, she studied the history of various alien civilizations. A third room taught her about technology and how different machines worked. The child absorbed everything eagerly. She learned to read star charts and understand basic physics. She memorized the names and characteristics of dozens of alien species. She figured out how to operate simple devices by watching their energy patterns with senses that seemed more developed than normal human abilities. Most remarkably, Heijin showed no fear of the advanced technologies around her. Where other humans might feel overwhelmed or frightened, she approached new devices with confident curiosity. She seemed to understand intuitively how things worked, often surprising Vorthak with her logical deductions. "This machine reads the songs that atoms sing," she announced one day while examining a molecular analyzer. "Different atoms have different songs, so it can tell what things are made of." Her description was surprisingly accurate. Vorthak had never explained atomic theory to her in those terms, but she had grasped the essential concept through her own observations. Such insights occurred regularly, making the dragon wonder if growing up in his realm had somehow enhanced her natural human intuition. Physical development proceeded just as remarkably. The variable gravity chambers throughout the domain provided Heijin with unique exercise opportunities. She learned to move gracefully in zero gravity, and to walk normally under forces that would crush most adults. Her balance and coordination exceeded anything Vorthak had seen in human records. The child also showed unusual emotional maturity. She understood that Vorthak was ancient and powerful, but she never seemed intimidated by him. Instead, she treated him like a beloved grandfather who happened to be a dragon. Her natural affection and trust continued to amaze him daily. "You saved me when I was little," she said during one of their evening conversations. "Now you teach me things so I can be strong and smart. When I grow up, I want to help other people the way you helped me." These words filled Vorthak with both pride and concern. He could see that Heijin was developing a strong sense of responsibility toward others. This was admirable, but it also meant she would eventually want to leave the safety of his domain to find other humans who needed help. The dragon began preparing for that inevitable day. He started teaching her about the dangers that existed in the wider galaxy. She learned about hostile alien species, dangerous environments, and the political conflicts that constantly shifted between star systems. Heijin listened to these lessons seriously, understanding that knowledge might save her life someday. But for now, she remained his ward, his strange and wonderful human daughter, who brought light to chambers that had been dark for eons. Vorthak treasured each day with her. Knowing that childhood passed quickly for humans, soon enough she would begin asking harder questions about her origins and her destiny. The ancient dragon watched her sleep each night and wondered what kind of person she would become when she reached adulthood in this unique environment. By her 8th year, Heijin had become something extraordinary. She moved through Vorthak's realm with the confidence of someone who belonged there completely. Her human intuition had been shaped by dragon wisdom and alien knowledge. She could solve problems that puzzled beings with centuries of experience. The morning that changed everything began like any other. Heijin sat in her favorite learning chamber, studying star maps that showed the current state of the galaxy. Red zones marked areas of active conflict. Yellow zones showed unstable regions where war might break out. Green zones indicated peaceful systems where different species lived together safely. "There are not many green zones," Heijin observed as she traced patterns on the three-dimensional display. Most of the galaxy is fighting about something. Vorthak nodded sadly. Young species often believe that conflict is the only way to solve problems. They have not yet learned that cooperation creates better results than competition. What about humans? Hyejin asked. Do my people fight a lot too? This question had been coming for years. Vorthak had prepared his answer carefully, but it still hurt to speak the truth. Humans can be both peaceful and violent depending on the situation. They fight fiercely when threatened, but they also show great kindness to those in need. Hyejin studied the star map more closely. She pointed to several scattered blue dots that appeared throughout the display. What do these blue marks mean? Those show where human settlements still exist, Vorthak explained. Your people survived the war, but they are spread across many different systems now. The child's eyes widened as she counted the blue dots. There were dozens of them scattered throughout the galaxy. So many humans are still alive, she whispered. I thought I might be the only one left. You are not alone, Vorthak assured her. But your people face new dangers every day. The hegemony forces that destroyed your birth ship continue to hunt the remaining human settlements. This news filled Hyejin with emotions she had never felt before. Anger at the enemies who hurt her people, sadness for humans who lived in fear, but strongest of all was a burning desire to help them somehow. Can we contact them? She asked eagerly. Can we tell them about this safe place? Vorthak hesitated. His realm existed in hidden dimensions where enemies could not follow. But bringing other humans here would mean revealing secrets that his people had protected for millions of years. It would also put Hyejin in contact with adults who might not understand how she had been raised. Communication is possible, he said finally, but it would be dangerous for everyone involved. The hegemony monitors most transmissions. They would learn about any humans who tried to reach us. Hyejin fell silent, thinking hard about this problem. Her mind worked through possibilities with the logical precision that Vorthak had taught her. Finally, she looked up with determination in her dark eyes. Then we need to find another way to help them, she declared. Maybe I could go to them instead of bringing them here. The suggestion hit Vorthak like a physical blow. He had known this day would come, but he was not prepared for how much it would hurt. Hyejin was still a child, barely 8 years old. The galaxy was full of dangers that could destroy her in seconds. You are not ready for such a journey, he said gently. The outside galaxy is more dangerous than you understand. Then teach me, Hyejin replied with fierce intensity. Teach me everything I need to know to survive out there. I cannot stay safe in here while my people suffer. Over the following days, Vorthak found himself facing the most difficult decision of his long existence. Every protective instinct told him to keep Hyejin hidden forever, but watching her study reports about human refugees made him realize that isolation would ultimately destroy the very qualities that made her special. He began teaching her about the political situation in the galaxy. The hegemony was a collection of alien species united by their belief that humans were too dangerous to exist. They viewed human creativity and adaptability as threats to galactic stability. Why do they hate us so much? Hyejin asked after learning about the various alien species that supported the hegemony. Fear, Vorthak explained. Humans develop technology very quickly. You form alliances easily with other species. You adapt to new situations faster than most races. Some aliens worry that humans will eventually dominate the galaxy. But humans just want to live peacefully, Hyejin protested. All the stories you told me show that humans try to help others, not hurt them. That is true, Vorthak agreed. But fear is not always logical. The hegemony leaders have convinced their people that destroying humanity is necessary for their own survival. This conversation planted seeds in Hyejin's mind that grew stronger each day. She began asking detailed questions about hegemony military tactics, weapon systems, and ship designs. She studied the locations of human settlements and the patrol routes that enemy fleets used to hunt them. Vorthak realized that his ward was developing strategic thinking skills that impressed even him. She could analyze complex military situations and identify weaknesses that professional commanders might miss. Her human intuition, enhanced by years of exposure to advanced alien concepts, gave her insights that purely logical minds could not achieve. The breakthrough came when Hyejin discovered the quantum communication arrays that connected Vorthak's realm to information networks across the galaxy. Through these systems, she could access real-time reports about battles, troop movements, and refugee evacuations. Look at this, she said excitedly. pointing to a tactical display showing a recent hegemony attack. They always approach human settlements from the same direction. They use the gravity of nearby planets to hide their ships until the last moment. Vorthak studied the pattern she had identified. She was correct. The hegemony used predictable tactics because they had been successful in the past. But predictable enemies could be defeated if someone understood their methods well enough. You see things that others miss, he admitted. Your mind works differently because of how you were raised here. Hyejin smiled with pride, but her expression quickly became serious again. Then I have to use this gift to help my people. I cannot waste it by staying hidden forever. The ancient dragon looked at his ward and saw not the helpless baby he had rescued, but a young woman beginning to understand her own potential. The time for difficult choices was approaching faster than he had hoped. Hyejin's 15th birthday arrived with news that changed everything. The quantum communication arrays brought reports of a massive hegemony fleet, gathering near the Outer Rim territories. Intelligence data showed they were preparing for something, called Final Solution Protocol, a campaign designed to eliminate the remaining human settlements once and for all. The young woman stood before the holographic displays in Vorthak's command center, her face pale as she read the tactical assessments. Hundreds of enemy ships were moving into position. New weapons had been developed specifically to counter human defensive strategies. The scattered refugee colonies had no idea what was coming. How long do we have? She asked, her voice steady despite the terrible news. Vorthak studied the data streams flowing across multiple screens. 6 months, perhaps less. The hegemony is being very careful with their preparations. They want to ensure complete success this time. Hyejin closed her eyes and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, Vorthak saw a resolution there that reminded him of the greatest human warriors in his database. She was no longer the curious child who had grown up in his protected realm. She had become something far more dangerous. I have to go to them, she said simply. My people need to know what is coming. More importantly, they need help preparing for it. The ancient dragon had been dreading this moment for years, but he also felt a strange sense of pride. Hyejin had developed exactly the kind of courage and determination that made humans so remarkable. Keeping her hidden while her species faced extinction would betray everything he had taught her. The journey will be extremely dangerous, he warned. Hegemony patrol fleets control most of the space lanes. Even with advanced technology, reaching the human settlements will require careful planning. Then help me plan, Hyejin replied. You have taught me strategy and tactics for years. Now let me use those lessons to save my people. Over the following weeks, Vorthak found himself doing something he had never imagined. He was preparing to break ancient laws that had guided his species for millions of years. Dragons did not interfere directly in the conflicts of younger races. They observed and recorded, but they did not take sides. But watching Hyejin prepare for her mission made him question everything he had believed about neutrality. His ward represented the best qualities of both human determination and dragon wisdom. If she failed, something irreplaceable would be lost from the galaxy forever. The ship he designed for her was a masterpiece of dragon technology. It looked like a standard human courier vessel from the outside, but its hull contained materials that could withstand assault by entire fleets. The engines used principles that most species would not discover for another 1,000 years. Most importantly, the ship's core held a fragment of Vorthak's own consciousness. This psychic link would allow him to provide guidance across any distance. If necessary, he could even channel some of his power through the connection to help her in desperate situations. This breaks every rule my people have followed since the galaxy was young, he told her as they made final preparations. But some things are more important than rules. Hyejin hugged him carefully, her arms barely reaching around his massive neck. You saved me once when I was helpless. Now you're giving me the tools to save others. That is what real family does for each other. The night before her departure, they shared one last meal in the garden where she had played as a child. The flowers still sang their wordless songs, but somehow they seemed sadder now. Even the energy creatures that had been her companions sensed that change was coming. Are you afraid? Vorthak asked gently. Terrified, Hyejin admitted with a small smile. But fear can be useful if you do not let it control you. You taught me that fear keeps you alert and makes you think more carefully about your choices. What if you cannot save them all? The dragon asked. What if some human settlements are destroyed before you can reach them? Hyejin was quiet for a long moment. Then I will save as many as I can, and I will make sure that humanity remembers what was lost. Sometimes survival is more important than victory. Her words showed wisdom beyond her years. Vorthak realized that she truly was ready for the mission ahead, even though it might cost her life. She understood the stakes and accepted them willingly. The farewell was brief but profound. Hee-jin climbed into her ship while Vorthak watched from the launch bay. She had grown from the tiny baby he had rescued into a young woman who carried the hopes of her entire species. "Remember," he called as the ship's engines began to glow, "you are not just fighting for the humans who exist now. You are fighting for all the humans who might exist in the future. Your choices today will echo through generations. I will not forget," she promised, "and I will not let you down." The ship lifted smoothly from the launch bay and disappeared into the swirling energies that surrounded Vorthak's hidden realm. Through their psychic connection, the dragon could feel Hye-jin's excitement and determination as she began the most important journey of her life. Behind her, she left the only home she had ever known. Ahead lay a galaxy at war, where her people fought desperately for survival against impossible odds. She was 15 years old, alone except for the mental link to her guardian, carrying technology that could change the balance of power across entire star systems. But Hye-jin felt no doubt about her mission. She had been raised by the galaxy's most ancient protector and trained in wisdom that spanned millions of years. Her human intuition had been sharpened by dragon knowledge until it became something entirely new. Most importantly, she carried with her an unshakable belief that courage and intelligence could overcome any obstacle. It was the most human trait of all, and perhaps the one thing that could save her species from extinction. The galaxy would never be the same. Hee-jin's arrival at the first human settlement created confusion that quickly turned to amazement. Her ship appeared without warning in the New Haven system, where 3,000 human refugees had built a hidden colony on a small moon. The settlement's defense systems detected her vessel, but could not identify its technology or origins. Captain Dae-hyun Kim commanded the colony's small defense fleet. He had fought in the original war against the hegemony and lost his entire family when their homeworld was destroyed. Now he led the survivors with grim determination, knowing that discovery meant certain death for everyone under his protection. "Unknown vessel, identify yourself immediately," he transmitted on all frequencies. "You are approaching a restricted area." "My name is Hye-jin," came the reply. "I am human and I bring urgent news about hegemony military preparations." The voice was young, female, and spoke with an accent that Captain Kim did not recognize. More puzzling was the fact that their sensors showed only one life sign aboard the strange ship. What kind of person traveled alone through hegemony-controlled space? "Prove your identity," Kim demanded. "Transmit your genetic markers and colony registration codes." "I have no registration codes," Hye-jin replied calmly, "but I will transmit genetic data for analysis." The results that came back from the colony's medical computers shocked everyone in the command center. The genetic markers were definitely human, but they showed patterns that suggested this person had been exposed to environments no human should have been able to survive. More mysterious was her apparent age. The biological data indicated she was only 15 years old. "Impossible," muttered Dr. Sojin Park, the colony's chief medical officer. "These readings suggest she has been living in variable gravity and radiation fields that would kill most adults. How could a teenager survive such conditions?" Captain Kim made a difficult decision. The unknown ship clearly possessed advanced technology, and its pilot claimed to have vital information. But bringing a stranger into their hidden colony could compromise their security if this was some kind of hegemony trick. "You may dock at Bay 7, he finally transmitted, "but you will be met by armed guards and subjected to complete medical and security screening." "I understand your caution," Hye-jin replied. "I would make the same choice in your position." When the docking bay doors opened, Captain Kim and his security team got their first look at the most unusual human they had ever encountered. Hye-jin emerged from her ship with movements that seemed to flow like water. She showed no fear of the weapons pointed at her, but also no arrogance or hostility. She was clearly young, but carried herself with confidence that suggested extensive training and experience. Her clothing was made from materials that seemed to shift and adapt to environmental conditions. Most striking were her eyes, which held depths of knowledge that seemed impossible for someone so young. "You are really human." Dr. Park said in wonder after completing her medical examination. "But your physical development is extraordinary. Your bone density, muscle coordination, and neural activity are all far above normal human ranges." "I was raised in an unusual environment," Hyojin explained simply, "but we do not have time to discuss my background. The hegemony is preparing a final assault that will destroy every remaining human settlement in this sector." She shared the intelligence data that Vorthak had gathered, showing troop movements, weapon deployments, and strategic plans that painted a terrifying picture. The enemy fleet was larger than anything the humans had faced before, equipped with new technologies specifically designed to counter their defensive strategies. "How did you obtain this information?" Captain Kim asked suspiciously. "Our best intelligence networks have no knowledge of these preparations." "I have access to sources that your people cannot reach," Hyojin replied. "The important thing is that the data is accurate. You have perhaps 4 months to prepare before the attack begins." Over the following days, Hyojin proved her value beyond any doubt. She analyzed the colony's defensive systems and identified weaknesses that even experienced engineers had missed. Her suggestions for improvements were brilliant, utilizing principles that seemed to combine human innovation with completely alien technologies. More importantly, she began training the colony's defenders in new tactical approaches. Her understanding of hegemony combat methods was incredibly detailed, as if she had studied every battle they had ever fought. She could predict enemy movements with accuracy that amazed veteran commanders. "Shido fights like she has dragon wisdom guiding her," whispered one of the pilots after a particularly intense training simulation. "It is like she can see 3 moves ahead of whatever the enemy plans to do." Word of Hyojin's abilities spread to other human settlements through carefully encrypted communications. Colony after colony requested her assistance as reports of hegemony fleet movements confirmed her warnings. She traveled from system to system, always staying 1 step ahead of enemy patrols. At each settlement, the pattern repeated. Initial suspicion gave way to amazement as Hyojin demonstrated capabilities that seemed impossible for someone so young. She could analyze complex tactical situations in minutes, identify optimal defensive positions, and coordinate multi-ship engagements with precision that impressed the most experienced commanders. But her greatest impact was on morale. For years, the scattered human refugees had lived in constant fear. Knowing that discovery meant death, Hyojin brought them something they had almost forgotten: hope. Her presence proved that humanity could still produce champions capable of standing against impossible odds. The final test came when hegemony scouts discovered the location of the new Sparta colony. A full battle fleet moved to attack the settlement, confident that they would find the usual helpless refugees. Instead, they encountered coordinated defenses that turned their own tactics against them. Hyojin's ship danced through the battle like a force of nature. Her weapons, based on dragon technology that the enemy could not understand, systematically dismantled hegemony formations. But more impressive was how she coordinated the human defenders, turning their small fleet into a unified force that fought with precision and courage. The battle lasted only minutes. When it was over, the hegemony fleet was nothing but drifting wreckage. Not a single human ship had been lost, though they had been outnumbered 10 to 1. "Impossible," transmitted the dying hegemony admiral. "What are you?" "I am human," Hyojin replied simply. "And you made the mistake of threatening my family." News of the victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time since the war began, humans had achieved decisive victory against hegemony forces. The mysterious young woman who had made it possible became a legend overnight. In his hidden realm, Vorthak felt the echoes of battle through their psychic connection. His ward had become exactly what he had hoped: a bridge between species, a champion who embodied the best qualities of both human courage and dragon wisdom. The galaxy would never be the same, because humanity was no longer alone in its fight for survival.